Hi everybody, my name is Melissa. I'm here to bring you this slow flow that you can do before bed. It's just some nice easy hip openers that you can do before you fall asleep to help you settle down into bed. Before we do that, I always like to start with a mindfulness exercise. So if you have a piece of paper and a pen, you could grab that. What we're gonna do on one side of the piece of paper is you're gonna write down your ideal life that you wanna live. So the perfect day that you wish to have. And on the other side, you're gonna write down what you actually do all day. And then you're gonna compare and contrast those. And then hopefully as time goes on, you can coincide those and you can end up living how you actually wanna live, rather than living from a reaction standpoint, where you don't really realize what you're doing every day as opposed to how you actually want to live your life every day. And now after you've done that, hopefully you do the mindfulness exercise. They're really great and super helpful. If they're available, you can grab onto 2 blocks and a strap. If you don't have a strap, you can always use a belt, or you can even use a robe tassel, or you can grab onto a very thin blanket that you can easily fold into something that looks like a belt. So we're just gonna get started by coming to sit on our mat and then come long ways on it. We're gonna lay down, but before we lay down, we're gonna come into Baddha Konasana with our legs. So the soles of the feet are together, the knees are apart, and as we lay down, gravity is going to help bring the knees down towards the earth, so we get a nice stretch in those inner thighs. Now, if this is going to be too much, you could always grab, if you don't have blocks, you could grab onto 2 pillows. You can grab onto your blocks and just gently place them under your knees, and this will help give you a little bit of support while you're leaning back. So just coming back onto your mat, bringing your eyes to a close. Arms are by your sides, palms face up or palms face down. Just maybe bringing the arms away from the body a bit, just so you get a nice broadening across the collarbone. And just coming into your breath. And then just directing that attention on those inner thighs, just really letting gravity take those legs down. And just feel that lower back press into the mat. Seeing where you can gently let go a little bit more. Maybe you allow the head to get a bit heavier. The shoulders come back a little more. Feel them melting away from the body. Really using that breath to gaze inward. Just start making those breaths a bit deeper. Before the actual physical movement, always use the energy of the breath to start waking up the body. So you can imagine that breath going down through the arms and through the legs. And when you're ready, just inhaling the arms up overhead, reaching towards the back of the room. And as you exhale, bringing the hands down, just place them underneath the thighs. And just give them a gentle press so you can bring the knees in towards each other. Soles of the feet come onto the mat. And if you had blocks, just gently move them out of the way. And then come to lie back. And we're just going to bring the right knee in towards the chest and then just wrapping both hands around that shin. Just bringing it in. Making sure that right foot is staying flexed. And if you want, you could always bring the left leg out long onto the mat. Maybe you roll out the ankles a bit. And then inhaling that left knee in, wrap the hands around that left knee, and then bringing the right leg out long onto the mat. And both feet are staying active. Maybe you roll out the ankles a little bit, wiggle the toes. With each inhale, just bringing that knee in closer to the body. And just check to make sure you're not pulling that leg too far over to the left to where that right hip wants to lift up. So you could see if you could keep both hips grounded into the mat. Everything's still really active. When you're ready, inhaling both knees in towards the chest. When you're ready, placing the hands behind the thighs and just gently rolling yourself up for a moment. So we're going to grab onto our strap. We're going to lay back down onto the mat. And then at first, keeping the left sole of the foot onto the floor, we're going to bring that right leg up. We're going to place the strap around the ball of the right foot. So you don't want it to be in the middle. You want to make sure it's on the ball of that right foot. And then we're just going to inhale that leg up towards the sky. And you want your arms to be an extension of the strap. So it's very common to wrap your hands around, to want to pull that leg in. Keep everything nice and neutral and keep your arms straight. And maybe just give a gentle kick of those toes out towards the right a little bit. And just stay kicking out through that right heel. You want to still keep that left foot grounded onto the earth. Making sure we're not hyperextending too much. You want to keep maybe just a slight bend in that knee. And then when you're ready, if it's available to you, bringing that left leg out long onto the mat. And when ready, we're going to place both straps into the right hand. That left hand is going to come on top of that left thigh to press it down just to make sure it doesn't come up. We're just going to gently exhale that right leg out and up. Holding onto that strap, still making it in support. And we're not just collapsing over, so there's still some sort of an engagement in that upper thigh and in that glute, just to make sure we're not collapsing down. Making sure we're not tensing up those shoulders in this pose as we're trying to hold on to that leg. When you're ready, inhale that leg up through center. We're going to switch the straps. So right arm comes out long beside you, and then just gently bringing that leg over towards the left. So we're not lifting that right thigh off of the ground. Making sure that left foot is still engaged. Right heel is still kicking out. Inhale up through center. Grab onto both sides. One more stretch up. When you're ready, we're just going to let that go. Rebend the right knee. Soles of the feet come onto the mat. Just gently windshield wiper the knees back and forth. And then moving on to the other side. So taking the strap, sole of the right foot planted onto the mat. Inhale that left leg up. Strap is around the ball of that foot, not in the arch. So making sure it's around the ball of the foot. Inhale, left leg up towards the sky. Making sure to kick those left toes out a little bit. Again, sinking those shoulders back in towards the mat. Making sure we're not straining with the arms too much. And just using every breath to get a little bit deeper. Making sure that lower tailbone is still pressing into the mat. When you're ready, bringing that right leg out long onto the mat, making sure that right foot is nice and flexed. Both parts of the strap come into the left hand. That right hand is going to come onto the right thigh to keep that right thigh glued into the earth. And just gently bringing that left leg out and up. Not pulling too hard on the strap, just being there for support. And still engaging through that left glute and thigh. When you're ready, inhale up through center. We're going to grab onto the strap with that right hand. Left hand comes out long beside the body. And then just gently lifting that leg over towards the right. That left thigh and glute is still staying on the mat. When you're ready, inhale up, coming back through center. So kicking out with that left heel. And when you're ready, letting that go. So placing your strap off to the side, and then just windshield wiping the knees back and forth. Inhaling the knees in towards the chest. And then we're meeting in a table position. So coming onto your hands and knees on your mat. So hands under shoulders, knees under hips, tops of the feet are glued into the mat. We're going to tuck the right toes, slide that right foot back, and then just gently pulse on the back of that heel. So just moving back and forth, making sure you're really pressing into the ground. And then we're going to find stillness. We're going to take that foot and then we're going to drag it out so it's in line with our hip. And we want the sole of the foot to be pressing onto the earth. We're going to tuck the back left toes and then come into like a half gate, half child's pose. So just bringing those hips back towards that heel, making sure this is still planted into the earth and bringing the arms out long onto the mat. So you can either leave the foot like this, or if you want more of a stretch in that hamstring, you can always come onto the heel if that's also comfortable. So just see what feels better for you. And if you feel like you can go a bit further, untuck those back toes and then hips sink back down. And just notice your quality of the breath in this pose. If you feel like you're short of breath, then come out of the pose a bit. Maybe you need to retuck those back left toes. When you're ready to come onto the other side, just inhale the torso up. Come back onto that left shin, return to your table. And then we're going to tuck those left toes, slide the left foot all the way back, and pulse back and forth on that foot. So while we're doing this, still making sure we pull the belly in, really pressing the hands into the mat. And then find stillness. And then bringing that left foot out so it's in line with the hip. Tucking those right toes and then exhaling the hips back towards that right heel. And then bringing the hands in front. And again, if you want to take it a little bit deeper, you can untuck those right toes and then sit all the way back. Making sure you're keeping the sole of that left foot planted into the ground. Making sure you can breathe in every pose, you're not forcing anything. And just making sure you're giving time to settle into it. And when we're ready to come out, just walking those hands in, lifting that hip over that right knee, bringing the hands back underneath the shoulders, and then returning to your table position. We're going to come into our downward facing dog. So walking the hands out, hands up in front of you, really spreading the fingers wide, pressing the hands into the mat. We want the eye of the elbows to come towards the front of the room. So we're getting this inner rotation of those arms. And then tucking the toes, pulling that belly in, and then inhaling up and back as the chest reaches towards the thighs. Finding some movement, pedal out the feet, lifting one heel, dropping the other, keeping that belly tucked in, really reaching those hips up and back. You want to create a nice lengthening in the spine all the way from the tailbone to the crown of the head. And then finding stillness in your downward facing dog, still really pressing into those arms, widening across the back. Chest is reaching towards those thighs, and those heels are reaching down towards the earth. They don't have to touch the mat, but as long as they're reaching down and you're sending those hips up to get a nice lengthening in those hamstrings. Just a few breaths here. When you're ready, coming onto tippy toes, just gently rounding that spine. We're bringing the shoulders over the wrists, so we're landing into our plank. And then exhaling the knees onto the earth. And so just gently bringing the hands back, we're coming into a wide-legged child's pose. So bringing the knees as wide as the mat, the big toes come to touch. The hips reach back towards the heels and the heart moves towards the mat as we walk the hands out. We want to keep this an active child's pose. So just gently pressing into the mat so the arms are coming away from the earth. Almost like you can gently tuck the tailbone up to get into those hips a bit more. When you're ready, coming back into our table pose. So bringing the knees under the hips again. Hands under the shoulders. If you have blocks, you can grab onto them. We're just going to step that right foot up in between the blocks and gently walk it out. And then maybe just walking that back knee back a little bit. So we're in our low lunge. We're going to come into a half split. So as we bring those hips back, they're going to stop over that back knee. That front leg is going to straighten. We're going to stop on that front heel. So you still want to really press into the blocks to get a lengthening in that spine. So shoulders come back, heart comes forward. And you still want to engage through this glute muscle and this thigh muscle so you have a nice supportive stance. You don't want to just sink into it. Because what happens is we can end up hyperextending the back of that leg, and that's where injury happens. So making sure everything is almost pressing up so you have a nice support underneath while you're also getting the benefits of the stretch. So just raising the head up. And then bringing some movement into it. We're going to come back into that low lunge that we were just in. So re-bending through that front knee, sinking the hips down, and exhale, surrendering back into that half split. But keep everything nice and engaged so you have control. You don't want to be collapsing in and out of the poses. So just gently warming it up. And then when you're moving, making sure that those hips are staying squared. So So your next time you're in that low lunge, we're staying here. Maybe you remove the blocks. Inhale, arms up overhead. Keep that belly tucked in, keep that rib cage in. And as we exhale, we're gonna bring that left hand down onto the mat. Right arm lifts up. We wanna make sure that front foot is directly under that front knee. We're gonna tuck the back toes, lift that back leg. We really wanna engage that left thigh and glute, just lifting it up in the air. Really pressing into both feet. And exhale, right arm down. We're gonna drop that back knee, untuck the toes. The arms or the hands are gonna come onto the inside of that right foot. And we're just gonna scoot that right foot out towards that right edge of the mat. So we're in our lizard pose. So hands can come inside of that foot, still really press into the mat so you have a nice lengthening. And if you feel like you need a bit more room, you can always grab onto your blocks, bring the floor closer to you. Making sure that back leg is nice and lengthened. If you want to go further, you can always bring your forearms onto the ground. Or you can always bring your forearms onto the blocks. When you're ready, we're just gonna plant the hands. We're gonna tuck that back toes, lift that back knee, and just gently kind of rock back and forth. We're dropping that back knee, untucking the toes, and then we want to bring that right ankle over towards that left wrist. So the goal of our pigeon is to bring that shin so it's aligned with the top of the mat. But obviously not everybody's pose is going to look like that because everybody's body is different. So if you want to bring that shin in a little bit more so you're more comfortable, you can do that. Otherwise, just play wherever you want it to go. You want to make sure you're not sinking too far over to the right or too far over to the left. You want to still have a nice engagement in both legs. So before we come down, first we're going to come up. So seeing if you could use that strength in the legs to really press into the ground. Maybe the hands come to prayer in front of the heart. Two breaths, and then when we're ready, fingertips come onto the earth. Move any props you have out of the way. And then coming onto your forearms at first. And then just gently making your way towards the ground. Just a few more breaths here. And if you're on your forearms, making sure you're not sinking into the shoulders, really pressing out through those shoulders and that chest. When you're ready to come up, Coming up onto the hands, lifting the torso. We're going to press our hands into the mat. We're going to tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, really bring in the belly, come back into your downward facing dog. Then shoulders over wrists, come into a plank. Exhale, knees onto the mat. So starting on the other side, grabbing onto your blocks if you need them. Placing the blocks underneath the shoulders, and then stepping that left foot up. So walking that left foot up, right foot back, right leg back, just to lengthen it out. And we're coming into our half split from here. So bringing those hips over that back knee, and then straightening through that front leg. And then see if you have to walk it up a little bit more to get comfortable in that pose. So making sure those hips are staying square. So left hip back, right hip forward. Making sure we're going up with that left thigh, keeping engagement so we have a nice support in our foundation. And as we really flex through that left foot, this is going to give us a nice contraction in that front leg as we stretch that back leg. And so adding some movement, coming back into that low lunge, sinking into those hips, and exhale, coming back. Inhale to come forward. And exhale to come back. And just moving at the pace you need to move at. And as you're moving, checking on those hips. Knowing that it's easy to unsquare them as we're going through the movements. When you're ready, stopping in that low lunge, removing the blocks, inhaling arms up overhead. So shoulders come over the hips. When you're ready, exhaling the right hand down onto the earth, inhaling right arm up, tucking the back toes, lifting that back knee. So really letting the energy come from the ground up. See if you could tuck in that belly just to spiral out that chest a bit more towards the left side of the room. When you're ready, left hand comes down onto the mat, back knee down, untuck the toes. Left hand comes onto the inside of that left foot. Now we're just bringing that left foot to the left outer edge of the mat. So being in our lizard pose. So seeing where you want to take it. If you want to stay on your hands, you can come onto the forearms, you can come onto the blocks. Whichever feels most comfortable for you. Making sure you're still staying long in that spine wherever you are. Shoulders are still coming back, heart is coming forward. Still making sure that front knee is directly over that front ankle. When you're ready, tucking the back toes, lifting the back knee, and just kind of shifting back and forth. When you're ready, finding stillness, dropping the back knee, untucking the toes, and then we're going to come in for that pigeon pose on the other side. So bringing that left ankle over towards that right wrist, and then placing the shin onto the earth. So just finding where it's comfortable for you, making sure that right leg is really long on the mat. Tops of back foot is pressed down. And then before we go down, we're going to come up for 2 breaths. So really pressing into the legs, bringing the hands of prayer in front of the heart. And then hands coming onto the earth. Bringing the forearms down. And then gauging how far you want to take it for your body. And then notice if you're sinking into that left hip too much, maybe you have to bring the right hip closer towards the ground. Maybe you want to make a little pillow with your hands. And then just place the forehead on them. And then when you're ready to come out of the pose, just gently bringing the torso up, bringing the hands in front of that front shin. Placing the hands onto the earth, spreading the fingers wide, pressing out through the shoulders. We're tucking the back toes, lifting the back knee, tucking the belly in, and coming to our downward facing dog. So really spreading those fingers wide, pressing into the mat, bringing that outer rotation of the arm, so eye of the elbow faces towards the front of the room. Belly tucks in, chest comes back towards the thighs, and then we get a nice length from the tailbone all the way down towards the heels. Coming onto the tippy toes, shoulders over wrist, roll into a plank. And exhale, knees onto the earth, untuck the toes. Hips come back towards the heels. We take a child's pose. Inhale up into your long table. And then gently sit back on the heels, swing the legs around. Then we're just going to come to lie down. Both knees come in towards the chest, wrap it around, give yourself a big hug. Just gently rock from side to side. When you're ready, find stillness. Just bring the arms long and the legs long onto the mat. Bringing the feet as wide as those corners. Palms could be face up or down, whichever you prefer. Arms could be by your sides. They can be on your belly. Or they could frame the head. Just coming into your breath as you settle down. Just feeling the legs really lay into the mat. Feeling the back press against the mat. Feeling the shoulders roll back. Feeling the arms rest. And any lingering tension just release. Letting the eyes be heavy. Letting the space between the eyebrows rest. Knowing there's nothing left to do. Just letting your body be where it needs to be. You know there's no limit to your relaxation. So just feeling everything melt down a little bit more. Letting your mind start to drift outside the body. And allowing everything else to fall away. Letting that breath still be steady. And just feeling it as it comes and goes. Ready, slowly starting to hear the sounds of the room again. Just gently bringing your consciousness back to the body. And just let the breath start to wake everything up. When you're ready, gently reaching the arms back. Reaching the heels forward. And then inhaling the knees in towards the chest. And when you're ready, gently turning over towards the right. In a fetal curl, maybe using the right arm as a support to your body. And then keeping the eyes closed and the quiet space within, using the strength of both arms, making your way to a seated position on your mat. Not worrying about where you land. And as you get there, bringing the hands in front of the heart, and then just gently bowing the chin towards the chest. Just feeling your body settle down where it is. Feeling the shoulders drop away from the ears. And just feeling the mind settle. And silently thanking yourself for coming onto your mat to practice. Knowing that you gave yourself the chance to have a restful night's sleep. When you're ready, inhaling the head, and gently open the eyes. And I thank you for practicing with me tonight. Namaste.